And if you know the kind of work they have done, I know for Amit was a tenant and a friend who was in the ground floor. He is now shifted to the premises. Amit is also into all this. So once actually I saw a monkey falling from a fourth floor in Malaysian 15 cross. I didn't know what to do, and nobody was there to go near the monkey, but monkey was suffering. I didn't know, so I immediately remembered Amit, because any snake is there, any birds are there, he will always used to be the first, and he used to get the help, and he used to do himself. So I called him. So as soon as I called, he brought somebody from their team. Hello? So there's some team like this. They came there, they did something, put the monkey in a gunny bag very, very delicately, put it in their two-wheeler, they went and they called me later saying that, sir, no, monkey is in good condition. After 2 days, we'll come back and leave it in the forest in 18 plus. Okay. I was really impressed. And I've seen Amit also, some bird was stuck here with the kite. He will go and help me do that and all. So this is something which we are not used to. If we see a snake, we start killing it because we thought it will harm us. Okay, because I grew up for 15 years in my resort, where I knew that snakes are not our enemies. They only act because of a defensive nature. They don't attack us. So, but we have a wrong impression. Any snake is there, we start beating it up, saying that it is really harmful for us. So there is a complete change of thinking required in this. So they are into that. Okay, so it's a very, very interesting lecture. So there are two aspects. One is we had lectures from 80 plus Jaisim and Colonel, 70 plus our Professor Shekhar and Mathur Chandrasekhar. Then we had some 60 plus of Omkar, 40 plus of our Devendra. Okay, so we had all this, but all were predominantly males. Okay, not all of them were males. So I was trying to get somebody from the other diversity area. So luckily we got Sukuksha here and Sarah. So they will be talking to us about their efforts and their interest and what is that we can do and how is that we can help the society. And more than all that, I think it is necessary for us to appreciate the kind of work they are doing, which is quite unusual. Okay, so let me welcome all of them, both of them, and hand over the time.
Not bad. Let us start doing. So anyway, my name is Subiksha and I work as a rehabilitator at our environment rescue. So before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit about what our organization does. So if there is any wild animal that is in distress in the city, we have our team that goes out there, rescues these animals from various different situations. We bring them to our facility for treatment, and once the animal recovers, we go back and release them back into the wild. So that is what we do. But if I really have to say, rescue and rehabilitation of these wild animals is only a small part of it. What we actually want to do is to help people understand and appreciate the diversity of wildlife that is there around us. And given how our city is constantly changing and expanding, that is the need of the earth. To learn. Okay, so that is the need of the hour for us to understand, rather help people see why these animals are important and why we should learn how to live by their sides. So, to give you an idea, the city is growing rapidly, right? So, I moved to Bangalore when I was 5 years old, and right now I'm 27. And in these many years, every time, my house is in Kanakpura Road, and I go home once in a year. And every time I go home, there is a new building that's come up. When we first shifted there 15 years ago, we felt we were moving to the outskirts of the city. To go find the grocery store, we had to go about 5 kilometers for Menshinkai to even buy milk. And right now, the last time I went home, which was in December, I see Forum Mall is walking distance from my home. Right? So, what happens is, as our population is increasing and expanding, more and more people are moving from different parts of India into cities like Bangalore. Because why? We get better job opportunities here, we get better access to healthcare, better access to education, and just in general a better quality of life, right? So when more and more people are shifting into our cities, what does that mean, right? Say this room of people, this room can hold about 30 people, but we have 100 people moving in here, so we will all be squished together, or we will have to do something and start occupying the space there. Same thing happens. I am pretty sure you guys have been in Bangalore for a lot longer than I have, and you can see how the city has changed. Now Devanahalli has also become a part of the city. Kanakpura is also very much a part of Bangalore. These parts are no longer outskirts. But think about it. Are we the only residents in the city? People. No, right? We are sharing this city of ours with a lot of different animals. They are also a very much part of the city. So if you see outside, you will see a black kite that is soaring in the sky. You will see a crow that is going around eating something on the floor. You will see butterflies, you will see parakeets in the night, you will see bats and owls. And we probably have snakes living around us. So all these animals have, you don't see lions and tigers in the cities, but you see these animals very commonly across everywhere, right? So these animals have somehow figured out how to live alongside us. But the rate at which our cities are growing, it is becoming challenging. To accommodate all these people moving into the city, what are we doing? We are cutting down the trees to widen our roads. What are we also doing? We are covering up all the lakes and water bodies in the city so we can put apartment complexes to accommodate people. On one hand, we are creating more space for people.
You can scroll down because you're seeing a PDF file, not a
We are
PPT.
taking away the space that these animals were once using, right? So what happens? We are kind of forced, we'll move on to the next one. So we are kind of, forced to live in close proximity with each other. So we perceive these interactions. So, we have a lot of different cases. We get calls every day. So we are a rescue center, right? So people call us appreciation to have these animals around us. Some people actually get stung by these bees. Or there is a bird that is nesting in their balcony. So they call us asking us to remove these birds because they are perceived as a nuisance. They're coming, they're pooping all over my balcony. It's getting messy. So, get these animals out of here. So that is on one hand. And on the other extreme hand, people are scared of these animals, right? So how many of you have seen snakes in and around where you stay? Most of you have. So what is your reaction to having snakes around? Fear, right? That's usually the common reaction that we get. A lot of times people see a snake in the empty property about it. Is that the solution? Getting the snake out of there in Bangalore, go put them in some forest around. Is that the solution to our problems? Not really. I mean, if you think about it, we have a role to play in the city, right? The same way, these animals also have a role to play in the city. If you think about it, you will see these black kites and the crows outside. They are the most common birds that all of us see. What do you usually see them doing? If there's a piece of meat or if there is some trash that is thrown, what do? They will come and eat it all up, no? So think about a city like Bangalore where there are so many of us. Each of us generates so much of waste at home. What would happen if these birds were not there? We are already dealing with such a big problem with garbage. That would be amplified so much. And there are also these birds called barnouts, gube. So the ratri time ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಓಡಾಡೋದಲ್ವಾ. Lot of times we get calls. ಇವಾಗನೇ ಆಯಿತು ಗೂಬೆದು breeding season. So ಆವಾಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಗೂಬೆ ಬಂದು they use our homes only. So in apartment complexes there are service shops, an attic, an unused duct. This is where they like to go and make their nests. And what happens is, what do they eat? They eat rats, right? So they tend to, there is usually smell associated with banana nests, and the babies also scream through the night to, that's how they communicate with each other. So we get calls from people saying, I cannot sleep, I haven't slept in 3 months, please get the owls out of here. But if you think about it, barn owls, right, just one family in one season will eat up think about it, these
Repeat,
animals,
madam.
huh? One family of barnos, right, when they're raising their babies, they usually have a clutch of about 4 to 7 babies. In just a few months, they will eat 5,000 rats. 5,000 rats, because they have to constantly hunt and keep feeding these babies, right? And barnos completely depend on rats and some other types of. And that is free pest control service for us right there, right? These owls anything for doing this for us? No, they are doing this completely free of cost. Same goes for the snakes. Snakes are there everywhere around us. It's just that they're so good at keeping out of sight that we rarely see them. There's probably snakes around us at this point, somewhere in a gutter or an empty site nearby, and they also provide this service. And now coming to, we all appreciate living in Bangalore. I for sure do, because I hate the heat, and Bangalore's climate is lovely. And we see that there are so many different varieties of trees in Bangalore. Like most of the roads have trees on both sides. So how did that come about? It's not like you and I and our forefathers went and planted each of those trees, right? It is birds like the barbets. It's the bats. There are these big bats that go and eat a lot of fruit. They eat about a kilo or so of fruit each night. So what they have to do, they will have to travel many kilometers to meet their requirements for the day. And by doing so, what do? They disperse these seeds across kilometers, and we have a diversity of plants that is there around us. So these are all the services that these animals provide. There is actually this one bird called the swift, the house swift. It is a small bird that keeps flying. Once it starts flying, right, for years together, it will not come down. It eats in the air, it sleeps in the air, it mates in the air, it poops in the air. You can move a couple of slides. So yeah, it does all of this. And what do they eat? They eat mosquitoes. So in one given night, they will eat tens and thousands of these insects, and they keep us safe from chikungunya and dengue and all of that, right? So again, like I was saying, all these animals provide these services completely free of cost. And it's not just these animals, but also this is the swift, the bird that I was telling you, how swift it is called. And they nest in our buildings. So anytime there is a space like this where the walls meet, that is where they make their nest, and that is the only time they actually come down. Apart from that, everything they do while they are flying. And they eat so many mosquitoes in a day. Same thing goes for these industrial bats. They are small bats. Wherever there are these Bangalore tile-like structures, right? These bats like to go, and that is where they make their colonies. And they also eat mosquitoes and help us keep us safe from diseases. And coming to beehives, which is again a very controversial topic, because people don't want hives, but they want all the benefits that are associated with honeybees. So about 75% of our food crops are pollinated by the bees. We don't want bees, and we burn all the hives. I don't think we would have a meal to eat at the end of the day, right? So that is the service that these animals provide. And it's not just these animals that provide these services. Think about a lake. Bangalore is the city of lakes, right? There are about thousands of lakes in the city, or at least there once were about that many lakes in the city. But what do these lakes do? They give us flood protection. So whenever there is heavy rainfall, these water bodies absorb all the water that is there and give us, flood protection. They also help filter the water, give us clean source of water and all of that. But now if you see, for the past couple of years in Bangalore, water crisis is there. In summers, every time summer hits, we are paying 500 for water tanker. Now we are paying 1,000. And this year we don't know what the situation is going to be. And I'm sure all of you can relate to that. These are very real problems that you and I and all of us are facing, right? But what do we expect when we build a house, we clear out all the water bodies, we put an apartment complex in place, and then we complain that when it rains, our buildings are getting flooded. And we complain about water shortages, right? Similarly, grasslands, Hesarghatta grassland, right? That is a very important habitat. It does a lot of services. Grasses, right, have very, very fibrous roots, so they hold the soil together and they keep it from eroding. They also help sequester carbon dioxide that is there in the air, and they also serve as habitats for a lot of different wildlife. But the funny thing that we do is we are going to these grasslands, which are very, very, very important habitats and which are fewer in number, and we are doing tree plantation drives there. That is the funny aspect of it. We are not seeing the importance of having grasslands around, but we want to go and artificially manipulate it and plant trees of our choice there, and taking away the service that this provides completely free of cost, and the same goes for forests, right? So this is what all the services that these habitats and animals provide. But then, like I said, we are kind of having more and more people coming to the cities. So there are all these interactions that are happening. So why is it that we should, start caring about this? The health of these animals, like we saw, or these habitats that we saw, are directly linked to our own well-being. Even if we don't protect them for the well-being of the animals, we need to do it to make sure that our cities continue to even function. Right? We are already taking a step towards destroying or destabilizing this delicate balance that is there in our ecosystem. Right? Think about it like a cricket team. So you need the batsmen, you need the bowlers, you need the fieldsmen, you need the wicketkeeper for the team to function. So now you don't like the bowler, so you throw him out of the team, what happens? The entire team will collapse, right? The same thing applies to us. We, the plants, the animals, and the ecosystem all have to be in that delicate balance for it to function, for us to be able to reap the benefits that these provide. So have you guys played this game of Jenga any time? You have? So yeah, so this is where you have these blocks that are kind of stacked up, and you will have to remove these blocks very carefully while making sure that it doesn't topple. That is a tricky thing, right? To make sure it balances, it has to be very thought through which block you remove carefully. Think about these blocks as the different elements that are there in our ecosystem. We are not even thoughtfully removing them. On top of that, we have a spherical structure and we have the human already balancing on a spherical structure. You know how difficult it is to stand on a ball. And now we are going about haphazardly removing these fundamental blocks that are supporting us. So you never know when you pull out a block when this thing that is already very delicately balancing will topple, right? So that is why it becomes important for us to start acting on this now. But like I said, again and again I keep coming back to this. Our cities are changing, and along with that, the life for these animals is getting more and more difficult. To give you an idea, how many of you know what manja is? Kite flying, right? Have you guys ever flown kites using manja? You have. It's a fun activity, and a lot of people don't know the impact that it has on the animals that are there around us. So, sorry?
Using manja
It
is banned?
is absolutely banned. I have a spoon with me actually right now.
I think everything is blown out to fly kite itself. Only on manja.
Do you see the video? Yes. Sarah, can you just see the video? Yes. Okay. Alright. So this is the manja string, right? So what we saw was a lot of people fly kites using this string now. In the past, my dad has flown kites. I never have, but I was completely fascinated with the idea of flying kites. So he used to tell me stories about how he used to crush all the rice and put powdered glass and all of that to cut the other person's string. That is maza to kaatne se aata hai na. But with this, right, what we have to realize is it doesn't just cut the opponent's string. It has the potential to slit a person's throat and also to cause serious damage to our bones. So what we noticed was this. I joined ARRC around the time of COVID. just before that, we were getting about 2 to 3 manja rescues in a day. Okay, 2 to 3 cases where birds were getting stuck in manja. And then the COVID period came. And what happened with the COVID period? A lot of children were at home, right? Particularly, we noticed that children from low-income backgrounds started flying kites as a pastime. And by the time the second lockdown was lifted, we were getting 15 manja rescues in a single day. And in the past 7 years, we alone have rescued over 12,800 plus animals stuck in this string. That is not to say how much we have done, but that is to show how big of a problem it is. And we don't cover the entirety of Bangalore, right? We mainly cover north and east of Bangalore. And keep in mind, we go and rescue birds that we get calls from. So think about how many birds are going unnoticed. And whenever a bird gets stuck in this, right, it's not just that one bird that is being affected. Right now, these black kites that you see, right, they are the most common birds and it is the breeding season for them. So if you go everywhere, there are nests of these kites around and they are raising their young. So sometimes when a bird gets stuck and it dies, right, there are chicks that are waiting for it who also get affected. We actually put together an animation video, maybe that is something that we can show to see how the impact is.
It's there in another
And-
file? Inside another file is there?
Yeah, I think we have it separately.
Yeah, we have it.
We have it in the pen.
And you know, like ma'am was saying, this is actually banned. This string, the government has realized that this string has, you know, serious consequences, and it has banned this not just to birds but also to people. There was one time this person called Mallikarjun, this was about 4 years ago or so. He was traveling from Adugodi on a two-wheeler, and the string was, you know, passing through the road. He couldn't see the string. I mean, see, think about it. If I hold it here, how many of you can see it? It's barely even visible, right? So he drove through it and he got his neck slit. Thankfully, somebody was able to intervene. He got stitches and he lived to tell the tale. But that is not the case for a lot of others. Children get excited. They go to catch the string. They fall off the rooftops and things like
Children
that.
that are sticking their heads up sunroofs now in cars.
Yeah. So that
That
is
should
the
be
impact
banned.
it has.
Sunroof itself should be banned.
Yeah, it causes a whole lot of issues. And the government has, sorry? Inside cities. It's
Children are
banned.
still allowed to do that. They are doing it.
No, it is banned. It is banned. It is already banned. Sunroof is not for that. Peeping ourselves out. It is only for getting the sun.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, the government has banned this, like she said, back in 2016 itself. They have realized that this is a very dangerous thing to be out there, and they have banned it. And last year, the Animal Welfare Board of India, right, issued a complete ban on this product. So, no manufacturing, no distribution, no sale, and no use of manja also. But if you go ask any of these government school kids, or any kids from Shivaji Nagar area, from DJ Hali and all of that, they will take you to a shop store that sells them. So why does the enforcement of this ban become so complicated? So if you see this spoon that I am holding out, do you see anywhere where there is a label that says it's manja? No, right? The product doesn't even come with the specification saying it's manja. And the string is sold separately, and they have these empty spools just outside the shop. So when kids go, they'll ask, "We want 200 meters." They'll just quietly spin it around the spool. and
See, actually, our school days used to buy the normal thread and cut all the glasses, powder and all, and make a special mixture, and we used to put it like this. We used to make manja.
Yeah,
No.
so that is how it was. I mean, that's the stories I've heard from my father also. But yeah, now this product is out there, and that is the impact it has. So what we do is we go to government schools. So we told you, right, we have done about 12,000 plus rescues. So we mapped all these rescues on a map, on Google Map, and we identified what are the areas that need attention, hotspots. So we got a couple of points. So what we did, we approached the government schools in the area, and we go and sensitize the students there. Because it's not like, you know, people are thinking that I don't care what happens. I don't care if my friends have their fingers injured. I don't care if birds die. I still want to fly kites. Most of the time it stems from people really not moving with who are flying this don't care about the animals around it.
Why are you restricting it to only walking schools?
Primarily from what we have seen, those are people who are, that's the target audience, because these kids from more, privileged backgrounds, they football, video games, they have a lot more activities
They
that
don't
are
go for
open.
flight rides.
And more
We are
time with the
restricted
laptop.
if they approach us, we go with the
Yes.
But our outreach is towards the lower income.
Yeah, and also we also feel like that is a group that not a lot of people
Take time out for.
Yes, take time out for. So that is what we try to
Also,
focus.
national schools, they have iPads to get entertained.
Exactly. So these guys don't. And we also cannot go in there and say don't fly this, because that's the only pastime they have. So we go out, we distribute other sports alternatives to get them to see where they are coming from. So that is one
And the
thing that
simple
we do.
do's and don'ts of kite flying.
Yeah, so even if they really want to fly kites, fly with cotton strings. Don't fly with this, because what happens, cotton strings also become a problem. We have gotten cases where birds get stuck, but the extent of damage is not as bad. And cotton string, couple of things, it will degrade in the environment. This will stay for years and years and years to come. Because we go outside, a lot of times, what we also see is people associate manja with Sankranti, Pongal. That is the time that people think the problem is. But it's not like when people are flying kites, these birds are going and getting stuck. They get stuck from the discarded manja. And Bangalore is also uniquely structured in such a way where we have a lot of green pockets everywhere. So this manja, once it gets cut, it keeps flying in the air till it encounters a tall structure, and that is where it goes and accumulates. So from what we see, manja is a year-round problem in a city like ours. So we also send out our team every day to Shivaji Nagar. Every day they go, they check the area to see if any birds have gotten stuck. They remove those birds from there, and we proactively go and remove manja from these spots. And we also request the public, if you have a lot of manja in your area, just day before we came and did a cleanup in Maleshwaram. We did a manja rescue there, and then after doing that, they told no, there's a lot of this kite string around. So our team went later in the day and they removed all the manja from the trees to prevent birds from getting stuck.
They have specifically procured a beam lift truck to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that is the extent of the problem throughout Bangalore.
Yes.
It is no longer a situation where they were doing it only with long knives or ladders. Now it has gone to such an extent that they need a vehicle with a boom lift so that doing this becomes easy on a regular basis.
Recently, a couple of months ago, sometime last year towards the end of December, we got a call for a bird that is stuck in manja. We also went there. I mean, it's become such a common thing that we are prepared. Anytime manja will come. All of our team knows how to do it. We went with our poles, with our safety equipment. We have specialized equipment to climb trees. Like Amit was saying, we have an hydraulic lift that goes to about 60 feet and poles that reach to about 70 feet, and we can do rescues up to 100, 120 feet. Right? But when we go there, we realized that this situation was different from any other. This bird was stuck at a height of 200 feet off the ground. 200 feet, because this was on top of a building that is 4 stories high. Telephone tower, and on top of the tower, this bird is hanging. And this
More
bird,
interesting is which bird.
which bird it is? It was a peregrine falcon. That is the fastest bird on the planet. It hunts and dives and catches other birds in midair, and it's migrated to India. It's not a resident of this. During the winters, it migrates and all that. That bird was stuck. So I think that really got us
Doesn't know
thinking.
about manja.
Yeah, it doesn't know about birds. So it's not a problem that's just, that is the extent of the problem. That is how challenging these situations get.
I mean, it was the irony because it's this fast bird that once it's in a controlled dive, nothing can really stop it. And in a sense, it was kind of arrested mid-flight.
Even for tall glass structures, there's a lot of pollution that happens.
If you see it, you see and if you've gone to these hill stations and if you look down at the city, it looks like stars on the ground. Right? So what happens, unfortunately, these birds get distracted off their courses and they come and crash into our windows because it looks like that is where the bird is coming from. wake up in the morning, they'll find this bird dead outside their windowsill. So that happens. But if you think about it, it's really not that complicated a problem to solve. Because this, right, birds are also smart. If you put some barrier on the glass, something to break the continuity of the glass, they realize that, hey, there is a solid surface, I cannot go there. So simple things like decals or having some stickers or anything at all to break the continuity of the glass or even drawing the curtains can be a simple solution to this
When
issue.
humans in Mars and all the glasses.
Yeah, yeah, you walk in the
Hanging and those.
Yeah, children especially. Yeah, so I mean, how do you these guys to figure it out?
In our office, one of the craftsmen, it's a new building, and there is a entrance which is a glass door, and then it's a new building and he was not aware of it. He came running and then he died. In fact, a lot of glass pieces between his head, his
That
teeth and all
sounds
those things.
very nasty.
Almost 2-3 months he was
Having it also. That is quite unfortunate. So yeah, that is something that happens in nighttime pollutions also. Simple things to think. Have like lights, dim your lights, don't use lights unnecessarily because that also saves our electricity, and draw the curtains in the nighttime so that birds do not see the light and come and crash into these surfaces. That is one thing. The third is entanglements with any of these netted stuff. You know, that is another major problem that we see. A lot of times we can go around to slides. So, you know, people we all like to go to the lakes, have a little picnic and all of that. We also put our trash there. Anytime we are celebrating Ganesh Puja, it's a lovely, lovely festival to do. But at the end of the day, we put all the trash that is there indiscriminately into the water bodies that are there around us. And if you see here, we rescue a lot of birds like this, where they get stuck in the debris that we throw around us. We have had cases where these Amazon packaging comes, no? The sellotape, the tape that they use, in that tape we have had snakes get stuck. We have had a lot of bats. Once we got a small piece of tape, 4 of those small baby bats that kill all these mosquitoes were stuck on that. And you know, how we manage our waste has a huge impact. And we also see a lot of birds. This is actually called a darter. So this bird dives into the water and it goes and hunts for the fish there. So if you see here, it's some piece of trash that was thrown around. This was from Salkere Lake. So you see that it's completely tied to its beak. So there is no way it can open its beak. If it doesn't open its beak, it cannot eat. It doesn't eat for extended periods, it gets weak. But the problem with rescuing a bird like that, think about it, is its flight affected in any way? It can still fly. It will still dive and it can stay underwater for minutes at a time. You go chasing after the bird, it will dive here. It will resurface 100 meters away and it still has that thing. So it becomes so difficult. And what do we do in those cases? Do we wait for the bird to get weak and die?
Another net to catch. Another net to catch.
Yeah. And I mean, what do we do in these cases? We chase after the bird is in severe stress. Already it's compromised. On top.
These are the people who made it.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's a predator that's running after to capture it.
This is how domestic rescue and wildlife rescue is slightly different. In domestic rescue cases, generally a dog is able to understand when the human is helping it. But that's never the case with wildlife.
They
don't have human interaction.
They don't have any human interaction.
The moment you approach a squirrel, even if you feed it in the balcony, you approach a few steps, they have that space, after which they will immediately get away. So that is where it becomes very challenging. This particular case was in an agricultural area where they were putting this netting and a snake got caught in this. This person was quite nice. He did not kill the snake. Instead, he called us for help. We went, we rescued the snake, we released it in the same property. It's a mountain snake. But think about it, and this is one more case. This is a cormorant, again a bird like that dies. This came from Sitaram Paya Lake in the Whitefield area. So it just so happened that the person goes on regular morning walks in the lake, and one day he saw this bird just stuck with net in it, and and struggling to stay afloat. Right? So what we did, I mean probably a fish or something was there in the net. So what it did along with the fish, it ingested the net also. And these nets sometimes have these hooks. So hooks go and get stuck in the animals inside. So we went here and we rescued this bird. We had to surgically cut open its throat to get that net out. We sutured it and all of it. Thankfully, this bird recovered and we released it into the world. But think about any of these cases. What happens to these birds if we don't take this? That animal will spend every ounce of energy it has struggling to raise it, and it will succumb to it. And
It's
all
with death, it's a different story.
yeah.
But we have to survive through and endure all the pain and not live a day.
Yeah, that is the fate of a lot of these animals, and because of our actions, because we cannot take a few minutes of our time and dispose our waste in the designated areas. It's not something that any of us would like to do. This is another major problem that we see, a major problem. Does anybody know what this is? It's a glue pad. Right? People use it to capture, to control the rodent population in their area. But if you think about it, it's a really sticky pad. This glue pad does not know that it has to catch only rats. If an insect comes, I won't catch it. If a snake comes, I won't catch it. It will just, anything that walks over it will get stuck. And this pad, right, is an inhumane thing even for the rats. Nobody deserves to suffer like that. But what happens is, see this, 2 rats are stuck in immense pain and the snake came to eat the rat and that got stuck. Same thing, this is a shikra. It's a very, excellent hunter, small bird, small raptor that you find in the parks and gardens around you. There was a rat here and there was this bird that came to eat this and got stuck. When they came to us, the rat was squeaking in pain. Its entire face was plastered, it was glued to its eyes. And many times when an attempt to get away from it, right, their skin and their limbs tear off in the process. And this is a story that is very close to my heart. This person, right, somebody had put out these blue pads in the house to capture the rats. And they also had a bulbul family nesting in there. So this is a baby bulbul. So it had just come out of its nest. And these birds are very chubby, very hyperactive. They want to go, they want to explore. And while doing so, the baby came to promptly eat an insect that was stuck. It's like, hey, I found an easy source of food today. It came and it got stuck in the pad. And this baby is calling, it's crying for help. And the adult bird came to help the baby. And here we have the adult bird stuck. And if you see here, all its feathers are out.
This is something that every one of us unknowingly contribute. So, in some ways, as much as technology is good, sometimes it is best to stick to our olden roots of, trapping rats. The easiest way is to tie those traps. Right? And there is existence of snakes and kites in the nature to naturally control rats more or less. So we release it and everybody will have somewhere, even if you go release it near the closest place where the garbage is dumped, there is a small ecosystem that will take care of it. For instance, over here, when I used to stay 102 crosses away, after a major building was demolished, I think it was a 50-60-year-old building which had a lot of holes inside it. It was probably home to hundreds of rats. And after the demolition of that building, I have at least got around 25-30 rats myself. And all of it have been through the rat trap, the metal bone sort of a thing. We used to release it near the railway track. And for those of us who are involved in this kind of thing, we know that there is a healthy snake population. Because it's also an instance that we have released some snakes over there. And it's a natural ecosystem that is going on. So the snakes get its food. That way the snakes don't come into our environment. And the pest is also controlled. So it's a natural ecosystem of its own that maintains. So this is
Parts are not banned, no?
It is banned, that is also banned,
but you can easily probably find it on big baskets.
yeah,
Yeah.
stores, everything, store near your house.
Most of the data centers, the people who take AMC,
Yeah.
they regularly come and keep this.
Keep these traps, yeah.
Actually, we have beautiful laws in India, but the implementation of them is the problem.
The problem, yes. That is why it becomes important for us to be aware of the damage it causes, because if we learn how to say no, how to identify products that are not to be used, we can start making those changes.
Because a lot of farmers, they don't kill snake because they know that snake is the farmer's best friend. Because rats contribute a lot of crop loss. Whereas if there is a healthy population of snake in the field, it controls the rat population. So in a similar way for us, we need not spend on all of these things. If we can, first thing is like dispose trash properly, and that way it won't attract birds close to our proximity, and also the rats. So it's one after the other. When we used to go for rescues, we have seen people stock their shoes from ages, outdoors. This is in Nagarbavi. The name itself, Nagarbavi is famous, for having a good green cover and everything. And they wake up to the fact that they are holding so many shoes only when they call us for rescue. They're like, "Yalla kadpudi." Our intention is to go remove that snake and follow certain protocols and release it. Our intention is not to clean up your house. So, proactively we need to be, we need to look into how our practices are. And if we can have our environment around us, in a clean, tidy way, naturally it will repel all of this. And we need not take any measures, apart from what we have to conduct otherwise, to push away these animals. Because not everybody likes these, and it is fine. It is understandable. Not everybody likes to interact. Some might find excitement, happiness in it, but that's not the case with everyone. So if that is the case, it's better to keep ourselves clean so that we don't attract them at all.
So that brings us to the thing that I was led us to. So how do we, now that we know that these animals provide all these services and they're going through all these challenges, what is it that we can do to help them? Either we can continue down the same path that we are, indiscriminately use the resources that are there, take away the habitats of these animals, have a very egocentric approach, which we don't understand will be our own downfall at the end of it, right? Or we can make some small modifications to our own lifestyles. These are not big changes we are talking about. Very small changes that we do but can have a big impact on our entire well-being, right? And that includes us also. So I'm sure, a lot of times when we throw the word coexistence at people, it's like, what do you mean by coexistence, right? Does it mean that all of you have to go home and start feeding the monkeys in your area because we are having exhibit market? Think about it. We want these wild animals to be independent, to be able to care and fend for themselves. A lot of times we also get calls for monkey drills. That's a major thing that happens in the cities, particularly in apartment complexes. We get calls. The troop has come. Please do something. Get them out of here. Okay, fine. But there are strict rules in India. You cannot relocate any wildlife from one place to another. There are rules against that, and only the forest department has the final say in the matter, right? So, but if you think about it, why is the monkey come there? Why is the monkey staying there? It's because it has easy source of food. There are common garbage collection points that we usually vanish to, and a lot of people within the apartment complex have different opinions on the issue, and they're entitled to have their own opinions, right? Some people, what they do, they go and feed these monkeys. They give a banana here, they give a fruit there. So the monkey, what is it thinking? Okay, if I go approach a person, they will give me food. So it goes to the neighbor's house and it asks for food. That person is terrified of monkeys and he doesn't give it food. The monkey is now confused, right? What does the animal do? This person gave me food, this man is not giving me food, what do I do? That is when we get into the kitchens and start raising it. So that is why coexistence does not mean we interfere with their lives or we domesticate these animals. It is setting them up or allowing them to exist and creating a preserving the habitats that they so desperately need, right? So a lot of times rose-ringed parakeets, guinea, people keep at home, right? That is actually illegal to do so. But I mean, we have had people say, we found it as a baby bird, we found it as an orphan, then we got used to it, attached to it, that's why we have it for the past 8 years. Then they get to know it's illegal and they want to submit it to us. And they say, I mean, if you think about it, there are all these challenges out there. Why don't I keep all these animals at home? They're at least safe. I'm giving them good source of food and all of that. But at the end of the day, the animal is using its basic right to live freely, right? So we need to appreciate these animals and do so from a distance. And we have to say no to inhumane pest control devices like glue traps. Even these rat cakes, those poison cakes that we keep, right, has a major impact. Rats eat them, then owls come and eat the rats that are poisoned, snakes eat the rats that are poisoned, kites eat the rats that are poisoned, and they come to us with severe internal bleeding and a lot of disease. So it's like it has a cascading effect. It's not just one thing we are altering. It's a chain reaction that we are starting, and we are not even aware of what is this reaction that we are setting up, because we don't want these minor inconveniences, or we don't have the patience to address these problems at their root, right? So what is it that we do? Okay, we learned that these are not the ways to coexist with animals. So what do? Create habitats, because that is what is important. A lot of times during the dry summer season, we have these leaves falling off the trees on the roadsides. People see even those leaves as a nuisance. It's making our roads look dirty. But leaf litter is very, very, very important. A lot of insects thrive in leaf litter, and a lot of birds, a vast chunk of birds eat insects, and those birds are also dependent on the leaf litter. But we think it's not pretty on our roads, so we clear it. And if you see, there's ground with leaf cover, right? It will help preserve the soil also. It improves the soil quality, because when those leaves break down, it's adding to the nutritional value of the soil. So it's a chain reaction that is there. So simple steps like just letting leaf litter be, or seeing the beauty in leaf litter, can go a long way. It's about how we change our perspective towards these things. So another thing is, it might seem like waste management is another thing we keep harping on. Basic waste segregation, biodegradable, non-biodegradable, electronic waste, just doing that, composting your waste. Might seem like small steps. If I do it, what is the big difference that is going to happen? But if each of us in this room come together and do it, and looking at us, more people are motivated to do it, we can set off a small chain of positive reactions that will, at the end of the day, help our environment a little more. Again, pollutions we spoke about, reducing light pollution, keeping the windows drawn. And another thing is, a lot of times, cats and dogs pose a major threat to our whole life. So on Instagram, a lot of times these videos go out where a golden retriever has a bird on its head and everything is looking cute. We all find it cute. But, we get, third or fourth top reason for the rescues we get is because of cats attacking these wild birds. They have that hunting instinct, and cats, more so than dogs, people like to leave it free. They don't have to take complete responsibility. It will go out, go in, go out, go in. Every time it goes out, it comes and gets some birds or some animal home. And that is something that we can do. If you have a cat at home, please keep the cat indoors, provided enrichment from within, because you cannot blame the cat. That is its instinct. So if it's let out, it will go hunt. So can you blame the cat? No. But the owner can be responsible to keep the cat indoors, or even if he lets it out, to monitor, to keep it supervised, so that we don't have this happening. Another thing is,
In my case, I have to monitor so that the bulbuls don't attack my cat.
so it's about being responsible.
We might all be aware of BBMP taking the responsibility of population control for dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. So similar way, Infosys along with Cuba have set up a cat sterilization center in China, wherein any stray cats, if you think they are increasingly becoming a problem, it is not just for the wildlife but even to humans. They'll go sit in your car and you wouldn't even know. You will start the engine, you will get stuck. You wouldn't ideally want to encounter such a situation. So if you can, even in the, let's say, street, one or two of them can voluntarily take up the initiative. It's at a very subsidized rate, or it's free at a lot of times. They even give cages for
Capturing.
yeah, they let you, rent or hire cages from there, wherein you don't even have to touch the rat, trap other than you can take the help of animal welfare organization, call them, coordinate a little. All it takes is a little bit of few phone calls, planning and coordination. You wouldn't also have to personally go and take this man. If you are encountering with too many cats in your environment, this is also something that can be done.
Where exactly in
I'll share the information with you.
That is also, it takes care of the rodents.
Yeah, but not all. Most of them are now feeding off, viscous wet food packets and not really the actual. But over there also, the poison cakes, the poison that we keep for rats, it will also poison the cats. If it's a house cat which is going in and out, there is a risk inherently. We are talking over here, with poison for rats and from there to the birds and all of that. At one point in time, on the outskirts of Bangalore, there used to be a lot of vultures. Okay, and one of the medicines that is given to cattle was a very dangerous one for the wildlife. And a lot of cattle used to be just thrown out in the open, wherein these vultures, kites used to feed off of them and live. But when this medicine was there, even the birds started suffering, and then the government realized now you will see that there is a dedicated vulture conservation reserve in Ramnagara. Okay, now that awareness has come. What is the
Diclofenac.
Diclofenac. So that is now used in a much more controlled way, and also the carcass disposal. Also, BBMP has a animal crematorium specifically, just like how we have electrical crematoriums. BBMP has specifically in Sumnadi, Bangalore. So yeah.
It was recently closed for a while.
Yes, but it is functional to a large extent, and it is a very good one in Bangalore. Any from small pet dog or a cat to large cattle, horses, buffaloes, all of them can be cremated over there.
Without Aadhaar card, huh?
Without Thankfully still without Aadhaar card.
You get this death certificate also.
Yes, based on your PIN code, phone number, name, you can go and cremate. So only for death certificate. No. So now those things have improved so that even the vulture population is also now thriving outside of the city. But that was not the case 10, 15 years ago.
And also what that set off is cyclic reaction of the stray dog population also increased, because they are opportunistic, right? So when the vulture population with scavenge hunters came down, then the stray dogs took the place of the vultures to scavenge through it and keep it. So it's all, if you see, one thing is the balance. It's the balance that we need to maintain, and one small change can trigger a whole lot of chain reactions that we will later complain about.
It's all
That we
about
cause.
small behavioral changes
Yeah.
that we make. If you could also touch upon zoonotics.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is something that we see, and we also got a lot of calls during the COVID period where people were reaching out to us in sheer panic, saying bats are living in my house. Remove the bats because they were worried that the bats would spread the diseases to humans. And yes, it's
Why
not.
usually COVID?
I mean,
Because
there was
very
a quantity of
very
COVID, right? So
even during
Bats are the cause.
No, it's only the complaint raised because they thought bad raised.
yeah, bad
Otherwise also
rates.
bats were there.
Otherwise also bats were there, but that set off a trigger for them, right? And yes, wildlife, there are diseases that transmit from wildlife to people and people to wildlife. Those are called the zoonotic diseases, right? So bats also do carry some of these diseases, but what happens is there have been no recorded cases of bats spreading COVID in India, right? There is no such thing, but that was just a fear that was there. But what happens? Why are these zoonotic diseases being exposed to the people? Like, why are people getting more exposed to these diseases? We are going and destroying the habitats. So sometimes these diseases that are latent in these animals will get expressed when the animal is under stress. Right? So when we are going into these habitats, when we are destroying these homes, the chance of transmission becomes higher. And what also happens is, now it's not like the world, I mean, everybody can travel from anywhere to anywhere. So those transport routes also make these diseases very easily transmissible. So something from some remote place in some other country can very easily become a concern in India. And even these zoonotic diseases does not mean that we should go and kill all these animals, because that is not the solution towards the issue.
Particular
We
species,
are,
sorry.
no, please go ahead.
The particular species is repeatedly put under stress.
Yeah.
And there is increased interaction between certain wild animals and humans. The exponential risk increases in the, for these diseases to be transmitted. So when we let's say increasingly farm certain animals, that is when you also often see the increase in zoonotics. So just like crop, you will see more diseases in monocrop culture, and you need, that is why a lot of intervention in terms of fertilizers, pesticides and everything. It is a similar case even with animal agriculture, where you put a particular species under extreme stress. So in your time, in your younger days, you would have seen that it was mostly country chicken that people consumed. There was a certain life it would take to go from small chicken to a big adult bird. Whereas now there is expedited. In 40 days you have a big broiler chicken ready. So how is that possible? It's possible because of a lot of human intervention wherein the species is undergoing extreme change. So when these things happen, there are more increased chances of zoonotics when human could potentially in a rare case.
And also what we see, not so much in urban areas, but in the wild, in the forests, right? We have people letting out their pigs, for example, to scavenge food or to forage food, and you will also have the wild boars. Sometimes there is intermixing of these two. Same thing with feral dogs. Dogs that are found on the periphery of these reserves and all of that, they interact with the canids, the canine species in that. So these diseases transmit from stray dogs to the wild populations, from the wild populations to the stray dogs. So it becomes a huge cause of concern with these interactions that are happening. There is another reason why we say keep your pets indoors, because it can affect your pet also negatively.
For instance, the dogs carry a lot of communicable diseases, canines basically. What we see over here in the urban setup is mostly canine distemper, parvovirus and these things. So if you go to any national parks or reserves, you will see a lot of forest folks proactively chasing the dogs away because they interact with wild animals. You won't believe, but there are jackals in Bangalore. Nobody will have a clue that and that too in places like Indra. So yeah, a lot of people unknowingly used to feed these dogs chicken rice, the jackals chicken rice and all of that. But the person doesn't know it's a jackal. Okay, but at the same time, it's happily eating, but that is not, and mingling with the regular dog population. If that continues and there is no distinction, like say some 10-20 years down the line, you might see a hybrid of dogs in Bangalore. So there are so many things that as much as it is from a morality perspective good to be feeding animals around you and all of that, at the same time there needs to be a balance. They were here to scavenge and play a role in the environment. It's good we are dog lovers, cat lovers, pet lovers and all, but trying to find the right balance. If we have a beautiful garden, we should rather just let the birds be birds rather than looking to make it cozy home wherein we could bring more birds. That might not actually be good, because there is a balance. If we let the nature be, there is purely a balance. But when we as humans want to take more action, want to interact more, all of that, we tend to invite problems in some.
But Amit, you have to be careful. If you are giving lecture and make a starting statement, there are jackals in Indranagar, you will be sued.
No, I get the context. Yeah.
So
You
that
can
is
see that,
what-
huh? Now in Singapore, you get to Singapore airport. Do not keep pigeons. Nature will take care of that.
Absolutely.
That's another major story that we can dive into.
Yeah.
Otherwise, ARRC, even now, they get probably like at least a dozen calls for rescue of pigeons. Okay, but in today's time, pigeons are considered as flying rodents.
Yeah, there are.
Okay, they are that big a problem, that pest. So a couple of years ago, ARRC took the initiative wherein we had a Jain organization near Ashram Circle, which was feeding on a daily basis. They had 7 locations they were feeding in, probably close to around 140-150 kgs of grains on a daily basis. Coffee board.
Rains they feel okay. Usually the snacks, leftover snacks.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So Sankey tank, coffee board, carbon park. So
National College.
Never had so many pigeons.
With more buildings, more
Also, what happens is we are changing these habitats, right? So there are some species of animals that are generalists. So they can survive in a very wide range of habitats, and that is why you see black cats have become extremely successful. They have adapted super well to living in cities. You don't see vultures go missing because they are specialists. They need a specific type of habitat. They need a specific type of dietary requirements and all of that, right? But what happens is, as we are moving towards, there are some species that might be able to thrive with the changing structure of the city, and pigeons just happen to be one of those opportunistic species.
If you love sparrows, I might be condemned for this, stop feeding pigeons. That is how I get that. Okay, because all the myths are pigeons. Yeah, it is all a myth that because of 4G, 5G, the sparrows are going. That is not at all the case, because you go to Bangalore International Airport, you will find sparrows there. Okay,
Inside the airport.
Yeah, inside the airport. Yeah, there was also an involvement of a R&D lab that was specifically involved to make room for sparrows and not for pigeons. They have thought through that. So it is intentionally such that you find sparrows in international airport and not pigeons. Okay, so what is the main reason for loss of sparrows is that loss of habitat, primarily. Before, in your younger days, you would see that they would make house in the bamboo tiles and small, and people would actually clean the grains wherein they would throw the half rice, husk, and also the worms in the grains and all of that. They used to primarily feed on that. Whereas now they have to compete with a bigger bird like a pigeon for the same food. That is available. But if you go to KR market or the old trade area, you will still find the sparrow population there. It's not that there is no 5G in KR market. There is problem.
I stay in Sanjay Nagar. There are a lot of sparrows.
Yes.
But there are some families, they take extra precaution to feed right kind of
Seeds.
sparrows actually. And they do come. Actually, we have to create some small sparrow birds kind of a thing and give paddy ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ತಂದು ಮನೆ ಬಸ್ಸಿಂದ ಕಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ they will start coming.
See, actually, the fundamental thing what we are discussing is we are going to leave for the habitat to find its own feed.
Absolutely.
Okay, the analogy is now pigeons were not there at all. For 15 years back, there was no pigeon at all. Not much of pigeons. Now, because of feeding, more pigeons have increased. It is very much similar to what our Bitti Bhagya is doing. If you feed the poor, more poor will come. It is not that it will change the society.
That is not the only reason why pigeons and owls are increasing this, because high-rise buildings have come. So especially the blue rock pigeon, blue rock pigeon, they instead of staying in the rocks, they prefer this high-rise buildings. They can do the nesting here. That is the habitat is been created for that. Added to that, all the
Feeding.
people
Feeding.
work for food.
Absolutely. That's absolutely
Adaptation is very nice.
Yeah.
Adaptation is there.
Madam, please continue.
Yeah. So tomorrow is actually World Sparrow Day. We call attention to the sparrows and what's happening. And recently, on 2nd of March, we got a call to rescue a sparrow. A family of sparrow was nesting in this person's house in Whitefield. And this was very peculiar when the call came, because he called and said that there is a nest here, but both parents are lying dead outside the nest next to each other. We were thinking this is quite bizarre. I mean, one time parent dying because it got eaten by a cat or something happened, it is understandable. But both parents were lying one on top of each other and they were falling below the nest.
And no visible injury.
No visible injuries, nothing. Perfectly healthy birds, nice weight, nothing wrong with them. And they are lying dead one on top of each other. So we went to rescue these babies and then we did a postmortem because that will help us figure out how to look after the babies or what happened. Right? So when we did this postmortem the other day, she found there were signs of poisoning. And how is that? It is because there seem to be agricultural lands on the periphery of wherever this nest was. Pesticides are indiscriminately used. So these birds probably ate an insect that was contaminated or seeds that were contaminated and they died. Thankfully we were able to help the babies. Yeah, they were soft released a few days ago into the wild. So it's an array of different things that usually contribute to the problem. And when you're talking about coexistence, we are talking about making these small changes there. So I just want to end this conversation today that we had with some stories that are extremely close to our heart. Some stories where people, the public, has come together to help the wildlife that is there around them. So there was this one family in Hooghly site that had a family of barn owls nesting in their kitchen cabinet. In their kitchen cabinet which they were using. So you see these, there were 5 of these babies that, we open the cabinet and they're tucked in and these barn owls have the tendency to do that kind of motion. So that is what you see there. And their main concern, why they called us, they waited for a long time, for about a month and a half for the babies to move out on their own. But when they called us, when they started noticing there were small insects that were coming into the mites that were coming into the kitchen. They understand, we completely understand. No, when you talk about coexistence, it's not about forcing people to, put up with these animals. It's about arriving at solutions that work for the bird, that also work for the person. So what we did, we went there, we saw why this was happening, and we gave them a bird safe insect spray. That is something that we use for our birds also. That will not affect the people as well. And another thing that we did is we lined the inside of the kitchen cabinet with sellotape or some sticky thing. So if at all there is any of these insects come, they get stuck there and they don't come into the kitchen space. And we also gave them that this thing. If you notice this, just spray small portions of it here. And the chicks, when they went to saw, they were at this stage. So they would, if you just give them a week or 2, right, they will fly out on their own. So that is what we asked them for, and we reassured them. You have any problem at any point of time, you call us. We will come. We will be there with you through the process to help you with the situation. So that is what we did. So every week we used to go there, we used to see. These chicks, they all hatch at different stages. They lay a clutch of 7 eggs. It's not like all 7 eggs hatch at different times. Some birds will be slightly older, some birds will still be in a smaller stage of development. So we were there with them till the time the last of the owls fledged out. And I mean, think about it, right? In a kitchen space, for somebody to inconvenience themselves enough to appreciate these animals enough to let them live there. And after a month, like we said, like we expected, all the birds flew out. And then they had that space cleaned and covered so that they don't come in there to nest in the nest season, because some of these birds do tend to do that. And that is one thing that we strongly believe in. Do not rescue any animal that does not need to be rescued. It's about helping them be out in the wild. Right now you guys will see baby birds. A lot of birds are going into breeding. So a lot of times these small baby birds, right, when they're trying to learn how to navigate this urban concrete jungle that we have created, tend to come down. A lot of times they don't need rescue. They just need a little bit of assistance from us to go back to their families. And that is what we do if the chick is healthy. Because no matter how much resources we pour into it, caring for these small birds is not easy, guys. The day of a rehabilitator starts around 6:30 in the morning. and it goes on till 7:30 in the evening. Every 15 minutes we have to feed these birds. Every 15 minutes with precision, one small move, the bird will die of it, right? We understand the amount of effort that goes into it, but even if you put this much of yourself in it, you can simply not match the care that the parent will give. The parent will teach it what is the right kind of food it has to eat, how to stay safe from cats and dogs, how to navigate this conflict jungle. So that is what we try to do. We try to keep the animals in the wild with their wild families, and when people come together to help us do it, it truly, truly warms our hearts. You see that, because that right there is coexistence, right? So another thing is snakes. During the breeding season for snakes, we get about 5 to 6 calls every day saying there's a snake here, there's a snake there, please come remove it, please kill the snakes. So we had one such person, the video will not play, but this is actually a rat snake. Kerehavu, completely non-venomous species. So about, only 4 venomous species of snakes are found in Bangalore. Contrary to popular belief, every snake you see is not venomous. That is your cobra, that is Nagarahavu, then it is your Russell's viper, which is the Kolapumandala. It is a venomous snake, yes.
These 4 are predominantly.
Yeah, these are the venomous snakes that you find here. This is your common crate. It's active during the night, Kattu. And then this is your saw-scaled viper. Garagasa mandala it is called in Kannada. So, Idu Kattavu. So these are the only venomous snakes that you find in Bangalore. And even this is saw-scaled viper. You will not see it because they need very specific habitat. I have never seen one in my life. And in all these years of working here, I have seen the crate only once. So even in Bangalore, you have only these 2 snakes that you have to know how to identify. And remember that snake is a small animal that is going on the floor. It's so small and we are towering over it like giants. Snakes are terrified of people and they will do everything in their interest to save their lives.
They don't have limbs, no?
They don't have limbs, they have nothing to protect
Nothing to
themselves.
protect, only the.
Yeah, and even if you see, right, these 2 venomous snakes will take. You see a cobra. When you see a cobra, right, what is the first thing it does when it sees you, when it approaches? It hooks up. What is that doing? It is a warning sign that it's giving you. It's trying to scare you, it's trying to tell you, hey, I'm here. Don't come near me. That is what it does. You don't respect that. You take another step closer. What does it do? It will strike the ground once. That is again another warning sign. It's saying, hey, please back off. The snake is not, he'll never chase after you and try to come and bite you, right? They will do everything they can to escape this situation.
Give also you have to give up.
Sorry?
Avina Dvesha, 100 Varsha.
Actually,
People think that.
And the snake also don't drink milk, no?
They don't drink milk. They're not mammals. They don't drink milk. They don't. They say that when a snake is dead, it will see the picture of the person who killed it come chasing and it will come and take revenge and all of that. A lot, yeah.
And,
It is,
and
yeah.
one more with this, Nagarahavu ಹಾಲು ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಕುಡಿಯುತ್ತೆ.
The thing is, it knows that it's a liquid, that's all. You drink that thinking that it might be a liquid.
Always ತೋರಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ.
But it is not true at all.
ನಾಗರ ಪಂಚಮಿಗಳು
Nothing of that sort. And same thing with Kodapumandala. Before you even see the snake, you will hear the snake. These guys like to stay in the leaf-litter sort of thing. Some shrubbery is there, that's why they will. And if they sense you, they will give a pressure cooker like this. A loud yes. Say, yeah.
Hissing sound.
Adike, there's a myth that goes around saying that if the snake's breath touches you, that part will start rotting away. Nothing of that sort will happen. It's just a warning sign. Kolapumandala, yeah.
And in case, if at all in a bite case, your best chance for anti-venom is the government hospital.
Yeah.
So don't go to fancy, I mean they will also carry anti-venom these days, but in your best case, it's always the government hospitals usually maintain stock of anti-venom.
So these are the 2 really venomous snakes that you need to worry about. All the others, this you don't see active in the night, and this is usually confused with another snake called the
baby snakes, juveniles are the most
Because
also.
they don't, what happens is snake's venom, right, is also extremely important for the snake. It takes a lot of energy for it to produce that venom, right? And what does the venom do? It also helps, firstly, it secures its prey, and also it helps digest the prey, those enzymes that are there in the venom. So a snake is never going to come and waste that venom on a person which it cannot eat. Right? So a lot of times snake bites are also 3 types. One is called a dry bite. As in what it does, it will just come. For example, the snake cobra is, it taps you. It doesn't really bite. It doesn't even bite you. That's called a dry bite. Then you have, it bites you. Then also it's of 2 types. Sorry, the headlock is the part where it comes and it touches you, but it doesn't inject the venom. The second one is the dry bite. It bites you, but it doesn't inject the venom. No venom. It's just done that.
But you won't know the difference.
Yeah. The third situation is when it actually injects the venom. But if at all you have any suspect of a snake bite, there is no, it's a very treatable condition. More people die of road accidents, diseases than snake. But how many of you know of a person who has been bitten by a snake as fast?
How many of you know of a person who's been bitten by a snake and passed away?
One person here. So how many of you know people who have died in car crashes, road accidents? Not us. Most of us know of something like that. So that is how it's a very treatable disease, and it's a notified disease also. If you go say you've been bitten by a snake, they administer antivenom. Good chance that nothing happens to you. You'll never tell me. Right? It's not like in the past or even in rural areas where they travel a lot. Antivenom is not in stock. So snakes, a lot of times like we fear what we don't understand. So we start understanding
What is first aid, do you think?
First aid, we say don't put anything tight, remove all your jewelry and stuff like that. First thing is keep the person calm, don't let them panic because that is
Blood
usually
goes
yeah.
through the bloodstream.
It's going to aggravate and no amount of biting and all that will.
Any bite when she's talking about snake bite, they are taking
So there is also this thing about, if I mix a drop of ink in the glass you gave me and I ask you to extract the 1 drop of ink back, can you do it? It's impossible, right? Same thing with the venom. Once it enters our bloodstream, it is getting
It's
circulated.
actually
To stop it from flowing, they say you try to.
No, what happens is that actually is when you will have to amputate your arm because you're cutting off blood supply completely. That part will start drying and then you have to cut it.
So it is actually far more worse to do that.
Do that, then you don't. First thing is for a person to be aware that it's a critical condition, nothing's going to happen to them if they rush to the
You
hospital.
should not sleep or something. They say.
You can lie down on the side, not on your back because sometimes you will also.
They say that you should not allow the person to sleep when.
You can lie down on your side, like we usually ask them to lie down on the side,
Like you
but
should
not.
be awake. That's what. they
Yeah,
say.
because what happens is vomiting is a sign. Sometimes that's a symptom, and they can choke on their own vomiting. So that is why they say, make them lay on their side. So simple things like that. But main thing is keep the person calm. Keep the
How
person
much
calm.
is the treatment time?
Within 4 hours or so, you get it. That is
And in most cases
But
today,
we try
even
it.
primary healthcare centers carry antivenom.
Yeah.
So even if a person is in a remote place, a good 45 minutes, 1 hour to the local PHC will still be able to take care of the survivability of the person.
We advise you to rush to the doctor if you have. Don't delay it. But yes, it's not like you don't get in the next 15 minutes, you don't block it. You have time to go get this treated. And even if you go to the hospital, it's not like they immediately start you off on treatment. They'll watch for signs of something because you don't know if it's a dry bite or
Because most bites are superficial dry bites.
Yeah, dry bite. So then in those cases you don't need.
Because as much as we are afraid, even the snake is afraid to come latch on and give you a proper bite and let you go. That is, that's the case. And juveniles also there,
Juveniles is one thing where the adults can have more control over their venom glands. Juveniles, not as much. So a lot of times people try to be heroes. They go
200 meters from here, there was a juice shop going towards railway station. Some guy, unknown to this, he was this away from getting a bite from 2 juvenile snakes because he was trying to go and take a selfie, biting from the baby snakes. So all it took is like, we got to know, we just went, scolded that guy, not to do it, then educated him, and we sent him. But people might dismiss that it is a small snake, but sometimes they're still very protected in a lot of ways. They have time to mark their territory, survive, and conserve that venom to actually put to use to get their food. And they wouldn't ideally look to, or we shouldn't be making them look to waste it on us.
So yeah, that is about snakes. And that particular case that we showed, right, this person was terrified that there was a snake on his property. Or as we usually get snake calls, we don't rescue all the snakes that come. If they're injured, yes. And if it is a venomous snake that is inside the house, or a non-venomous snake is inside the house, it has no way out. Only cases we come and help out. Otherwise, we tell them. A lot of people think killing the snakes is the solution, or take the snake from here, put it in a forest that's 500 meters away. That's not going to work, because what happens is, see, if there's a massive rat snake that is living on your property, that snake has been there for years. And that is the first time you're also seeing this snake.
No.
You misplaced.
We built a house in Avian in 2000. And people were construction worker, they said, you have come to their place.
Absolutely.
So better to learn to live with them.
They are the original karma holders.
Yes, right. Absolutely right. And but even, think about it, even I'm saying you hate snakes, you don't want snakes, even in that case, removing the snake is not the solution, because you go throw the snake somewhere else, the snake won't survive first.
There are certain protocols to do this. So if you observe your stray dogs, they have their marked territories. They don't go beyond that, right? And they won't let others also come live into that territory. It's a similar way with snakes also, wherein if you request for a rescue, in front of you the snake might be taken away, but it is such that we have to release it in a certain distance. Otherwise, it will be injustice to the animal, because going and releasing it in a completely new environment where it does not know, it's as good as killing it. Whereas it's a different case when it's a juvenile snake. You still have that group, and you'd rather do that because you want the animal to live a longer, peaceful life where it will not interact with humans as much. So if it's a small snake, there are a lot of cases people do tend to take it far away and ensure that it's left in a more green patch wherein the human interaction will be reduced. Whereas if it's a sub-adult or an adult, it is not a choice for any rescuer to completely relocate.
And that is, from the snake's perspective, yes, but also from the human perspective, because the snake has been there in the property for 10-15 years and you've seen it once. That is because the snake made a mistake and it got spotted by you. But the snake has been moving around without being seen, let's say, away from people. Now you take the snake that already knows how to navigate your space and you go throw it somewhere else. The snake doesn't do it. Secondly, the habitat is still open. Food sources are still open. Source is still open. Habitat is still open. So what will happen? A new snake will come and occupy the same place. This time it may be a cobra instead of a rat snake. And this snake, while trying to figure its way out, it will be spotted more frequently because it still doesn't know how to move without you noticing. So you take this snake, put it out. It's a cyclic problem with the taking for itself, even when you don't like snakes. Killing or relocation is not going to solve the problem, it's only going to make matters worse. So, we had one such person who was scared of snakes actually learn about these things, and he said, release it right outside my property for the rat snake, and we did do that. And these are the changes that we got. We got small steps and have a big impact. And this is again a story, this was towards South Bangalore that we got this call from. So, this person had been, he's a photographer, so he had been seeing, these are mottled wood owls, very, very eerie, cute looking species. So there was a nest that was there, and one evening he's been monitoring this nest every day, and one evening the chicks had fallen down. So he called us saying, these chicks have fallen down, the parents are there. So what we did, we went about 40 kilometers down south from where we are. We went, this is what they were looking like when we went there. We helped put them on the tree, and the moment we backed out, the parents immediately came and started taking care of them. And the beauty of this particular case was the entire community came together without disturbing the bird. They would give us daily updates on how they are doing. So if you see, we have day number on it, day 0. This is on. This is where the parents were spotted, and this is 18 days after the reuniting. The chicks have grown from this to this, and they are thriving in the wild with their family. It's not because of what we did; it is because of what that person who called us and the community did. That this was a success story, right? Similarly, this was another case. Black kites. These are the babies. This is what the babies look like. They had nested on a coconut tree, and somebody cut off the coconut tree and they just threw the chicks out. So somebody called us and they leased out their terrace to us. When we told them, if you give us access to your terrace, we can keep them with the parents. They said, sure, by all means. Because what happens, kites, right? They are really defensive when they have their babies. If you approach the baby, the parent tried to come and swoop down on you, saying, back off, leave my child alone. So they said, it's okay. The entire apartment complex, the small flat, said, it's okay. We will not use the terrace for the next 2 weeks. You put those chicks there, we will monitor and we will make sure anything goes off, we will let you know. So they stopped using the terrace for drying their clothes for 2 weeks and everything, complete activity, terrace mein band. And they made sure that they sent us videos of those babies flying with the parents after 2 weeks of time. So that is something they did. And many cases we get of birds like this is a bulbul. They nest in places in the balconies and stuff. So a lot of times chicks come down and like I said, if the chick is healthy, our first thing is to reunite it. And many people, it's not just 1 or 2 people, a lot of people have monitored birds like this and have helped wild families stay together. And that is what coexisting really is. And that is what we think is the real impact of the work that we do, and that cannot be possible without individuals changing how they perceive things. So this is our number. So if you find any wild animal in distress in the city, you can call us for help. We particularly cover these areas. So we will come, we will rescue the animals and we will help you out with this.
We'll also share, depending on the zones, because Bangalore is a big city. We are located in Varamau. For them, let's say to come to Kanakpura Road every time is not a feasible option.
You are in Varamau?
We are in Varamau, Bangaswadi. Lovely.
So there is WRRC which is operating out of Bannerghatta. It's also called as Bannerghatta Rehab Center. So and then there is people for animals in Kengeri. So depending on who is the closest, again the costs get divided and because
EF96,
yes.